Welcome to episode 14 of Running on OCP, where we speak with organizations using Open Compute in a variety of ways, including end users, software companies, and those companies that align to the OCP tenets. This week, joining me is both a software company based in Europe, as well as one of our key solution providers based in Europe. I speak with Kenneth Tan, who is the Executive Director of Sardina Systems. And Sardina Systems has an award-winning operating system focused on OpenStack and Kubernetes, providing a really highly resilient private cloud offering. Joining Kenneth is Philip Kaye, who is the Director of Vesper. And Vesper has been a solution provider of Open Compute for a few years now, providing full rack integrated systems across Europe and America, and really one of the top SPs that we have and have some of the largest deployments in the region. So today we talk about the importance of having an integrated solution, how Sardina and OpenStack and Kubernetes works extremely well on open source hardware, and really hope you enjoy this week's discussion with Kenneth and Phil. So thanks, Ken and Phil, for joining me today.
Thanks for having us, Steve.
Thank you for having us, Steve. Pleasure to be here.
Sure, and it's great to have a company like Sardina joining us along with one of our solution providers, Vesper. So now, Ken, tell us how you came to get involved in this industry, as well as how did you start Sardina Systems?
Yeah, I'm a co-founder and executive director of Sardina Systems. Prior to being in the data center infrastructure business, I worked at risk systems in BNP Paribas, a French investment bank. And earlier in my career, I was also involved in large-scale systems in supercomputing and being an academic at Queen's University Belfast.
And Phil, how about yourself?
Yeah, my first entrance into the IT market was in the late 90s. I worked for an ISP that also had a software as a service security product. That was back in the days before software as a service even existed. And they came up with a cloud-based system of scanning for viruses, and were very successful catching things like the Melissa and Lovebug, if you remember those viruses back in those days. I then went on to work for an IT reseller before setting up in business in 2004, doing the same thing, selling traditional OEM brands like HP, Dell, Cisco. And then in 2014, I co-founded Vesper Technologies, which was set up to focus on more open infrastructure.
Great. So, Ken, when I get to your website and I take a look at Sardina, I see words like OpenStack and Kubernetes and Ceph. So tell everyone in the community, what is Sardina? What kind of solutions do you offer? And then how do you work with the team at Vesper?
So Sardina, we are a cloud platform software company. When we were founded back in 2014, we saw an opportunity to bring forth the combination of tools to enable data centers to be operated a lot more efficiently, a lot more flexibly. And our product, Sardina FishOS, built on OpenStack, Kubernetes, and Ceph to really enable enterprises to turn bare metal servers into flexible cloud platforms that can then be easily consumed by developers and application operators. Our objective is to enable zero downtime operations for the enterprise clouds. And we do this by addressing how do we enable systems to be operated with high degrees of reliability, and how do we build in automation to enable operations to being a lot smoother, a lot easier. And with Vesper, we're very happy to work with Vesper as a hardware partner. Vesper really understands the open infrastructure business very well.
Yeah, now, Phil, how does this pre-integrated automation software solution built on OpenStack, Kubernetes, SEP, how does this fit with what you and the team at Vesper are doing?
Okay, so I think Vesper's primary business is to provide data center infrastructure. And by that I mean we're providing the hardware, the network, the compute, the storage, and we build these systems in-house, which can range from a single server assembly to rack scale solutions, which are pre-configured with a cloud platform and a software-defined storage solution. And FishOS from Sardina Solutions is a OpenStack distribution. So it's that cloud platform that allows us to deliver a fully integrated solution that customers can take into their data center and have their own private cloud environment with everything done for them and completely supported. You know, the hardware architecture has been tested and proved, and they get the support and the management of the cloud platform from Sardina. So it really takes a lot of the guesswork and pain away from those customers that want to move to open systems, but really need some support to get there.
And Ken, what does it take to become an official distribution recognized by the Open Infrastructure Foundation, or formerly the OpenStack Foundation? What's involved in that?
The principal hurdle is that not only that you have to spin the full distribution, which in itself is a tall order, but also the distribution has to meet the OpenStack Foundation's interoperability test, and that's very, very stringent. So FishOS OpenStack meets the Open Infrastructure Foundation's interop test, and we're one of the few vendors that continue to meet the latest, if not the one before versions of the qualification test.
Okay, so now you mentioned that it provides a full lifecycle automation. What exactly does that mean? If I'm a beginner out there and I hear the term full lifecycle automation for OpenStack-based Kubernetes clouds, what does that mean to me?
So if you break the lifecycle into the three key phases, so you got deploy, operate, and upgrade phases. In the deploy phase, what you're really aiming for is to be able to bring up a production-ready system in a very simple, easy to get going manner. And you want to bring it up quickly. You don't want to spend 2 or 3 months doing deployments. That's not productive. With FishOS, what we regularly do is bring up the full system within an afternoon. So once the system is up, you are now entering the operate phase. And as a production system, this should be the largest part of life cycle. So here, as an operator, you benefit from having key infrastructure operations tools pre-integrated, ready for production right from the very beginning. And 6 months later, there's a new release of OpenStack. Users love this. Rapid innovation, the new functionalities, the new capabilities, they're absolutely fantastic. But for operators, these are also often seen as additional challenges. There are problems that needs to be solved. And FishOS Upgrader answers these challenges very simply, providing a zero downtime upgrade solution. So all in all, in addition to the more common operational tasks, such as log management, monitoring. Our operations tools also address the challenges around health management and workload management. These components, they incorporate a lot of our IP. For example, to solve initial placement problems, rebalancing problems, as well as health management, all the way to the more common enterprise requirements around usage accounting, billing, service management that we also provide.
So Ken, I'll get to those two main issues that you mentioned in just a minute around the placement problem and the rebalancing problem. Phil, as you look at this Kubernetes distribution and OpenStack distribution, how do you see this fitting into your overall strategy, and how are you relaying this value proposition to your customers?
Okay, so I think the sort of customers that both Kenneth and I work with, as we mentioned before, they operate on a large scale, and one of the challenges that they have is managing large scale infrastructure. And a system like FishOS really helps to mitigate the complexity of managing your own private cloud platform. So the reason that we enjoy working with Kenneth is that we think that there is natural synergies between open source and open compute, and that extends way beyond just the ideologies of collaboration, and that sort of open nature. It's also to do about the sorts of problems that it solves there. So it's solving these management problems for people. So we find that when we talk to people about open compute, the same customers, they're also looking for solutions on how they can manage that infrastructure. And it was really because of these customers and these problems that they face that we went out into the market to look at different OpenStack distributions, to look for a partner that we believed could help our customers, and we found that in Sardina. So we're very focused on this fully integrated platform with Sardina because we believe it solved a lot of problems for customers.
And I think this solution that you guys put together has a lot of benefits we'll get to a little bit later. Ken, I want to revisit those two main issues that you mentioned. One is the initial placement problem and a rebalancing problem. Those are the two things that you said FishOS, your distribution, covers. Can you explain those two issues in more detail?
Sure. So the initial placement problem and the rebalancing problem, these are two halves of the core of the virtualized data center low utilization problem. So firstly, by solving the initial placement problem and the rebalancing problem, we can enable service level requirements to be met without having to over provision servers, without service quality degradation as well. And secondly, data center operations can then also be optimized, thereby lowering energy OpEx, service CapEx, and as well as facilities CapEx. Now, the problems of initial placement and rebalancing, they're solved in two corresponding decision engines in FishOS. In order to achieve high resource utilization, there are two situations that needs to be handled. First is that given a particular set of new VMs to be initiated, where should the VMs be placed, considering live resource utilization across the entire facility? And second is, given a set of VMs that are running within a facility, how can we pack the VMs onto an optimal number of servers while catering to the resource requirements of the VMs without performance impact. So the first problem is the placement problem, and the second problem is the rebalancing problem. So what we do in FishOS is that we, in effect, collect large amounts of metrics related to resource utilization, and then we feed it into a decision engine, which, for lack of better description, it plays one massive jigsaw puzzle problem. And these decision engines then enable the data center to be optimized in where VMs are placed and how VMs should be resourced to fit the requirements. And FishOS placement engine and rebalancing engine today are part of FishOS Workload Manager, which together with the FishOS Health Manager helps cloud operators to achieve very high reliability as well as efficiency.
So thanks for explaining the placement engine and the rebalancing engine. Now, one of the key areas that this helps address is around CapEx and OpEx. So can you talk more about giving some examples when you're working with customers around the CapEx and OpEx savings that you're seeing using FishOS?
Sure. So in standard OpenStack, suppose you have a machine with 64 cores, and suppose you have 64 VMs, one vCPU each, and one vCPU matches one core. Once you have these VMs launched, OpenStack says the system is full. That's it, no more. You can't launch anymore. And even if the workload is idle from the host perspective, OpenStack would not allow you to launch any further VMs. And OpenStack would not figure out how to optimally pack them either. So in effect, this translates to wastage. Now, one example site, they have workloads that run from midnight till about 7 or 8 in the morning, and the rest of the day, the workload is largely idle. So you have a system here where system is effectively busy for a third of the day. So it would be gross wastage to have all the nodes powered up. And what we can do is that we figure out how to optimally pack them onto fewer servers. And we can then turn the excess servers into low power states or into sleep mode. And then as the utilization increases again, we can then bring additional servers back into operation. Conversely, the servers that are empty, once we pack away the workloads, they can also be used to serve other workloads during the business day. So this is how you have the ability to A, serve more workload, and B, run the infrastructure much more efficiently from an energy standpoint.
And Phil, as he talks through these CapEx and OpEx numbers, using his software, how does that impact the way that you're scoping out the OCP hardware side?
So most people initially consider OCP because they're interested in cost savings, and a lot of the education that Vesper does with customers is that those cost savings aren't just around the capex cost. So there is an anticipation that because you avoid the OEM tax, so the traditional brands that are just huge marketing companies rebranding Samsung memory, Micron memory, Intel CPUs, etc. And because you're buying at source, that there's going to be cost savings there, and that's true. But OCP cost savings are about much more than that. There's huge cost savings associated with power savings, in terms of the design of the infrastructure itself. And there's huge cost savings around the management. And we talk about people who have very small IT departments, and we see this at, we've heard of stories of people at Netflix and companies like this when they have, teams of half a dozen people running 10,000 servers because their cloud platform is doing that work for them. So the operational costs with the management and the power savings, make a huge difference to the overall costs of running this cloud platform. And to go back to your question, Steve, the OpenStack running Kubernetes is just another example of that. If you can get more out of that same compute resource, which you're standing up there all the time, and doing it in a more efficient way, so you're consuming less energy, then ultimately the cost of running that cloud platform is going to be lower. And so working with Sardina and FishOS, what we're looking to do is just optimize everything, optimize the hardware design, optimize the power consumption, optimize the management of the system as well.
The two together have to have some pretty amazing numbers when implemented. Ken, as you look at your set of customers across Europe, are they primarily in particular verticals? And then also, I guess, are they only limited to Europe, or do you have other regions as well for a focus?
Yeah, so today, in terms of geographical region, a lot of our sites are in Europe, but we're also growing in Asia Pac and East Africa. As for customer domains, today FishOS is used in quite a broad range of domains, such as finance, bioinformatics, telco, hosting provider, HPC, and research and government. Across these customers, what you see is that FishOS is operating cloud infrastructure that's core to their business. Some of these are indeed national scale cloud infrastructure, while others are more enterprise clouds at, for example, major publicly listed enterprises. So just to elaborate, one of our customer sites is DENBI, the German National Bioinformatics Infrastructure. They provide national scale cloud infrastructure for highly scalable bioinformatics research in life sciences. And also in Germany, the Cyber Valley Machine Learning Cloud. This is a premier AI and machine learning initiative. They run FishOS powered platforms integrating GPU accelerated bare metal and VM-based workloads, as well as Kubernetes in VM and bare metal to help drive AI and machine learning discoveries. And elsewhere, we power several clouds enterprise-wide at Broadcom, a leading 5G technology supplier to major telcos. And in other situations, FishOS powers a platform that hosts, amongst other organizations, a certain country's national orchestra.
Oh, very nice, very nice. So it is quite a bit of different use cases depending on the region and, of course, the workloads that are needed. Now, you have a a solution that is Sardina on top of OCP hardware. So Vesper worked with Sardina to certify this hardware on your software. What was involved there? And then Ken, why did you choose to work with Vesper to create this solution?
Yeah, so we want a partner that is highly knowledgeable in OCP hardware, and we look for a partner that has this deep, extensive systems expertise, as well as the passion for open technologies. Then when we work with Vesper to put together a solution, we look at not just what is needed on the software, but what would be optimal for customers' workloads.
Now, so then, Phil, what is the solution? What does the solution comprise of? And then how small or big of an instance do I need on the hardware side to get going?
Okay, so first of all, you need an OCP rack because OCP servers are powered through the bus bar and the rack. That's one of the big differences between traditional hardware and OCP. So if you're just looking for perhaps one or two servers, then the costs associated with getting set up for that rack, it's probably not going to be for you. You also need 6 servers for a minimum deployment of FishOS for OpenStack. Kenneth may correct me, it may be 5, but I think you need
6 is bang on.
Yeah, so you need 6 servers. So we have a minimum footprint would probably be an OCP rack, 6 WeWin Tioga Pass servers. It is possible to hyperconverge the storage into those. You don't have to have storage. That we find more often that people like to separate that storage out. And so if you want us to run Seth also for you, then there'll be a number of additional servers there, probably another 4 minimum to run Seth. The cluster is pulled together using a high performance network. So we'd have at least 2 25 gig connections in the back of each server, going to 2 switches for high availability. The storage can be high performance with all NVMe, or we can incorporate a lower sort of performing capacity tier with spinning disk.
That's a good size footprint. I mean, it's nothing too huge to get started, which is good for some of these large enterprises that want to try out this particular solution. Now, you have a lab in Manchester. Is this solution available in your lab currently?
Yeah, we have a solution set up that customers can come and demo. And in fact, we are looking to run a webinar later this year, whereby we will give people a tour of the infrastructure and show what are the differences between traditional infrastructure and OCP, so they can get to have a look at the OCP servers up close. And then we're going to hand over to Kenneth, who is going to talk about running FishOS on that OCP infrastructure. But that environment is there, and if customers want to have access to it to have a play with Sardina FishOS on OCP, then they're able to do so.
That's great, Phil. Now, what about you, Ken? Anything on the horizon for Sardina in the coming months?
Yeah, our plan is to work closely with Vesper to rapidly and easily make available our fully integrated enterprise cloud solution to customers wanting to benefit from a pre-baked OCP accepted hardware infrastructure solution This way, enterprise customers can make their lives easier to have a system that can be brought into production rapidly with OpenStack, Kubernetes, cloud solution, rack built, network installed, OS installed, and FishOS installed. So end-to-end tested and certified. And customers can also further tailor the solution to get optimal hardware as well as the world-class support.
And I think that's a perfect way to summarize this entire conversation. Fully integrated enterprise software solution stack on OCP accepted hardware with the type of support that you get from the guys at Sardina and Vesper. Ken, Phil, I really appreciate all the work that you're doing to support the OCP community. Again, the solution is available in the Vesper Manchester lab. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to me at steve@opencompute.org. I'd be happy to make the introductions to Ken and to Phil. I'll be back with my key takeaways in just a minute. Thanks again, Phil and Ken.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
A couple of my takeaways from my conversation today with Kenneth and Phil was really, again, about how the two organizations are partnering together to deliver this solution to market. And when Kenneth was talking about the importance of placement and rebalance when it comes to his software and how that helps drive the utilization within the servers, and then when Phil picked up on that point and indicated how that translates to the efficiency within the hardware. So you can see how the open software impacts the open hardware when it comes to CapEx and OpEx. And the second is around the scope and breadth of the use cases. When Kenneth was talking everything about the Cyber Valley to the life sciences use cases, that works extremely well with the use cases that we're seeing coming along with OCP hardware and what the folks at Vesper are doing. So I encourage you, if you are in the area, to please make your way up to Manchester to see the hardware itself in the lab, or you can also take a look at our website where Sardina has their solution listed on top of Vesper Tech hardware, and you can see the architectural diagram and some of the details. I hope you enjoyed this week's discussion with Kenneth and Philip from Vesper and Sardina. Look forward to more episodes of Running on OCP in the near future. Thanks for listening, and cheers.